Tuner is documentary filmmaker Daniel Rohr's first narrative feature film. It follows Nicky, played by Leo Woodall, a piano tuner who discovers that his ultra-sensitive hearing can be used to crack safes. And when his piano tuning partner, Harry, played by Dustin Hoffman, is hospitalized, he turns to crime to help pay the bills. On top of this, there's also a love story going on here with Ruthie, whom he meets through his piano tuning job. This film is pretty basic. All the heist stuff going on and the progression of that part of the film is all quite predictable, and quite honestly is filled with basically nothing but tropes. All of the other characters he works with during these heists are super one-dimensional, with really nothing interesting about them, but the film is elevated by having some sharp editing, great sound work, and an interesting enough thing going on with the main character that it does turn into something that's pretty enjoyable. Nicky's condition, which causes the aforementioned ultra-sensitive hearing, while that does sound pretty cool on its own, is actually totally detrimental to his life. He almost constantly has to wear earplugs to block out noise, only removing them when he needs very precise hearing, like when he's tuning pianos or cracking safes. He also pretty frequently wears a pair of headphones on top of the earplugs. Nicky himself describes it as like being allergic to loud sounds, and there's a couple of moments here where we see this really come into effect, like when the ringing of a fire alarm almost completely inhibits his ability to function for a few moments. The film does an excellent job of really making the audience understand exactly what Nicky is going through with its sound editing. With the fire alarm, it's also blaringly loud for the audience, and we hear the rest of the world start to drown out as it gets replaced by the sound of Nicky's ears ringing. We also get what would otherwise be really quiet sounds, like when Nicky is cracking safes, turned up to be much louder, probably something closer to how Nicky is hearing them himself in the movie. All this really adds a level of immersion to the film that would just not be here otherwise, and it's certainly one of the biggest things that elevates this film a little bit beyond just a super basic heist movie. There's also this whole angle of him having once been a very talented piano player, but due to his hearing condition worsening, he had to just outright abandon it and settle for the piano tuning job we see him work throughout the movie that he doesn't really enjoy all too much. It seems to be more like just the easiest thing that he could fall back on, rather than something that he had a real interest in doing. It's pretty clear that in general, Nicky is quite dissatisfied with his life, as it seems like he's just almost accepted within himself that he lives what's basically a meaningless existence. We do see in the love story portion of this movie that Ruthie helps sort of revitalize him. I think pretty much the only times we ever see him genuinely smile are when he's with her. It's made pretty obvious just how much of an impact she's had on him in what is a relatively short amount of time. But unfortunately, like the heist side of this film, this is all pretty basic, and quite honestly, for most of the movie is fairly uninteresting. Until the third act, it really feels like it's just not going anywhere at all. It feels super disconnected from the heist half of the film especially, and like the movie would have just been better off using this time to better develop some of the criminals. But I do think that it's important to recognize that this is a film that is very much focused on Nicky as a character rather than what is actually going on around him, and Ruthie is an important part of how his character develops. I still do wish some of the other criminals had more development and that the movie didn't follow such a basic progression, and that it all felt a little bit more connected, or at least like any disconnection between these plot lines was intentional. The heist and love story aspects of the movie do start to weave together more as the film nears its conclusion, which for me sort of redeemed the love story portion especially, and made me more so understand its inclusion. But even still, the way these two aspects weave together, like everything else, feels pretty generic and predictable. By far the most interesting part of this movie is Nicky as a character, but it's also more so the potential I see in exploring a character like him rather than the way that it's actually done in the movie. I can't help but think there's a far more interesting story to be told here if it just really focused on how directionless and lost Nicky feels and his trying to find some kind of greater purpose. We do get some of this when he's with Ruthie, and I do think there's an interesting dynamic going on between the two, as she also plays the piano and is sort of like the person that Leo wanted to become had his condition not stopped him. the heist portion of the movie especially does not feel like it connects back to this side of Nikki enough. It almost feels like Rohr was not confident enough with his ability to really delve into this character, and so he just surrounded him with all this other stuff going on, but it just doesn't feel like it connects back to that internal struggle enough. The movie is certainly at its best when Rohr does really delve into this character, and the understanding of Nikki that we do get leads to what is actually kind of an incredible final scene. I was really taken aback by just how much it worked for me, given that the rest of the movie was fine, but not anything like too great for me. At the same time too, I think this ending scene does reaffirm for me that this movie could have been great had it spent more time exploring Nikki. But as it stands, it's still solid enough and will probably be a decent time for most people who see it. For me, Tuner is a 3 out of 5. If you'd like more film reviews like this one, I would love for you to subscribe and leave a like on this video, but any amount of support is appreciated. Thanks so much for watching The Final Take, and have a good day.